Camera's throwing me off. Wish you guys were here. Need to be here. It's not storming at all. But put the camera outside for a minute. Okay? Questions, list of sources, and evidence you've collected so far. Let me give you 5 minutes. If you haven't written down your question or your list of sources, do that right now. And I will look at it when I call you up to look at your evidence.
What if I don't have that?
I put my sources on my iPod.
You gave me that flash jump.
You can
flash jump.
maybe you can email it to me.
Can I do that, please?
What? Okay, Jen. So it's done. All right.
Do we need the list of sources independent of like written at the top of the note card?
Yes, please. Because I want to have it up there. All right, listen. If you have your sources, like Alex said, written on a set of note cards or kind of randomly throughout a bunch of paper, just consolidate your question and sources onto one sheet of paper. Okay? So let me give you.
So we don't do the evidence, just the.
The evidence you'll show to me later, but I'm going to be keeping with me the question. The question and the. Okay. I'm going to give you 2 full-length historical investigations. Okay? So that you can see what it looks like from beginning to end, how the parts fit together, etc. You can't keep these or write on them just because I need to use them for every class, and there's too much paper to make 95 copies. These, at least one of these will be on ClassJump for you to go back to and reference over and over again if you want. I'll have at least 2 or 3 examples on ClassJump. Okay, so let me give you, I'll give you the first one, and there'll be another one coming around as well. Number 1, compare the 2 and how they're similar and different as far as just the format is. How do they look next to each other? Secondly, look through these, read parts of them. How do they compare to what you did in your Civil War project? What parts of your Civil War project are similar to what they're doing here?
I guess
okay.
we define more.
Okay, so you're doing those 2 things. Stay on task while I call up people to look at your evidence, your questions, and your sources. What Michael does. That the evaluation of sources in one of them is bullet points, and the other is paragraph form. I want you guys to do bullet points. It's easier to organize. It's a clearer way to do it. You won't be tempted to write analysis if you do it in paragraph. If you do it in bullet point.
And I understand the questions, like the information easier.
So what's that?
Like I understand the information better.
Yes, what is in bullet
Just
points?
reading like that huge.
Right. Okay. Yes.
In this one, he has a word count after every section.
Okay, you don't need that. You don't need a word count after every section. Again, it's not going to count against you, but you don't need to have it there, Jen.
On the 4th paragraph in section B, can you just put like all the sentences and put like the whole thing?
No, he did it the right way.
You did every sentence?
Right. Now that's why you might as well just go ahead. Essentially, he could have easily put that in bullet. Now method and scope we have to explain. We're going to start with scope. Okay? Think of it this way.
What?
What?
What am I videoing?
Do that until I. Now do this.
Do that?
Okay, think of it this way. If you look through a telescope, you have a certain amount of things that are in your viewfinder. Okay? The trees, a bird, sun, etc. Only thing you're focused on, your scope, is this individual. Okay, you don't even see this person's mother over here. Okay? You're only focused on this.
She has no hair on top of it.
Okay? So when you think about your topic, your scope is what exactly are you focusing on? Okay, now let's look back at the example. So,
Doesn't that kind of depend on how broad your investigation is?
well, yeah, so the scope clearly lays out what you're going to look at. Okay?
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. This investigation evaluates the degree to which the anti-communist policy of the U.S. contributed to the rise of the Taliban to power. To assess the extent to which these policies led the Taliban to control of Afghanistan, The investigation focuses on the U.S. involvement in the Afghan-Soviet War in the 1980s and the events leading to the establishment of the Taliban regime. The details and motivations of the U.S. interference are considered within this investigation, and the connections between these actions and contributing factors of the Taliban's rise to power are explored. All right, let's stop right there. So, if your scope is what you're focusing on, what do you think this person, what sentence or sentences in this plan are this person's scope?
Details and motivations.
Close. Right, where it says this investigation focuses on. That's your kind of your clue. The U.S. involvement in the Afghan-Soviet War, events leading to, details and motivations of the U.S. interference, etc. That's their scope.
And Taliban rise to power.
Okay?
Is explored.
Right. So it's those two sentences. All right, now, having a clear scope is very important because it will lay out the way that you organize your summary of evidence and your analysis. Okay, the summary of evidence is just a collection of evidence. If they're doing this well, and in what order you cover it. Yes, Emma.
So in the plan of investigation where it says 2 sources selected for evaluation,
Okay.
so you only select 2?
I'm going to get to that in just a minute. Okay, so we're just talking about scope right now. Now, turn to the to the analysis, which is page 6. Turn to the analysis. Yeah, that's very, very possible. All I need to say is I didn't say that.
It's 20.
Okay, so in the analysis, what?
That came later, though. I felt like that came later.
What came later?
When it says plan of the investigation. Oh, wait, no, you're right.
Okay. So it says here, I'm skipping down a few sentences, the decision of the U.S. to become involved in the Afghan-Soviet War was one of such action. There it is. It's the first thing they're talking about. Because, and again, this is how you should do it. It's the first thing in their scope. It's the first thing in their summary of evidence, and now it shows up as the first thing they're going to analyze. It's very well organized and structured. If you're doing your plan well, the rest of it will come easily as far as your organization is concerned. Okay? All right. Now we are going to look at some examples of a bunch of. I'm giving you 5 examples.
This is Mr. Swihart handing out examples. I don't know. I can't do this. My thing is awful. I'm like not even. Huh?
You want me to do it with your phone?
Sure.
Keep trying, Chloe. This is what they get.
Wait, what's wrong with your phone?
It's dead.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Have it tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, John. I was fully ready. Okay, first of all, make this one you can write on, guys. You should have a writing utensil out ready to make notes on this. First of all, the question should be inside the section. How was social Darwinism used to further imperialism? That's a clear question, it's a good question, but it needs to be in the plan of investigation. Okay? So, I want you to read this on your own, take 3 minutes to read this, and then talk to the person next to you about where do you think the scope begins? Where do you think the scope starts?
After the words Darwinism in the 3rd line, in order to analyze, etc. And then I think it ends after the phrase altruistic ideals.
Okay.
Which is a little ways down.
Good, right, it starts right here.
Okay.
In order to analyze the justification of imperialism, the European world's apparent need for imperialism is regarded. Okay? So, this is what I want you to do. There are actually 3 parts to the scope. 1, 2, 2, it says then, social Darwinism is examined, and it says finally. It has very clear context clues. Finally, the investigation shows how the European world molded the social Darwinist theory. Those 3 things. That's the scope. Very clear scope. It's good. It's done well. Okay, everybody see that? Any questions? Okay. So we know exactly what they're focusing on. Let's talk about the method. The method is the how are you going to investigate. I know what you're going to investigate. The method is how are you going to. So looking at this example, the 2 sources used in this investigation are from Rudyard Kipling's The White Man's Burden and Peter Dickens' Social Darwinism. The origins, purpose, values, and limitations are assessed when looking at both how those sources support the investigation. During this investigation, the opposing side of social Darwinism will not be extensively examined. Other factors that furthered imperialism, such as expansionism and geopolitical rivalries, are not discussed. This is not a very good method, and make sure you make a note of that, so you don't. You know they're going to look at these 2 sources, but do you know why they're looking at these 2 sources? Anybody? No, we don't know at all. So make a note to yourself that just listing sources you're going to evaluate is not part of the method. Okay? Just listing names of books is not part of the method. Also, this section, they say what they're not going to study. You don't need that. If your scope is clearly enough focused, you don't have any need for writing that little bit right there. Okay? Now, to be clear, this won't count off if you do that, but it's not going to help you if you do that. And for some of you, it may just distract you. Okay, so really all we know about the method, I'll give you some suggestions about what to look for as method. It says, it does not require students to describe the format of the internal assessment, nor does it require them to explain they will read books, visit websites, or go to libraries, because that's assumed you will do that. Under method, students can note things such as the nature of sources chosen and why they've been selected, a logical structure to the areas of the scope that indicate how the task will be addressed, or the method of analysis to be used. By the way, the method of analysis to be used can be things like, I will distinguish between this, I will analyze this, and evaluate this. Those words are all the command terms that are up on the board in the front of the room. You could use those to guide you through your method. Okay? So see if you can pick up on a good method in any of these examples. Again, 2, 3, 4, and 5. What grade would you give it between 0 to 3?
Two.
Why, Chandler?
I mean, I think it's pretty good. I think you just got it all mixed up.
Well, say it based on what's in the rubric.
Oh, okay. Well, the research question is clearly stated,
Yes.
but I don't find, but the method and the scope of the investigation are outlined and related to the research question, yet done poorly.
Well, are they fully developed and closely focused? To get a 3? No. Now, are they not clearly stated?
No.
No. So it's a 2. You're right. It's a 2. Okay? Look,
For 2.
to get a 1, the research question stated?
No.
No. So it's a 2. You're right. It's a 2. Okay? Look,
For 2.
to get a 1, the research question, method, and scope, all 3 of them would have to be not clearly stated. The method is not very good in this one, but it just says the method and scope are outlined and related to the question, and that definitely meets that criteria. So it's a 2. It's a solid 2. Any questions on how we got that?
What should he have done to have his method be good?
Good question, and that should come clear by looking at other examples.
Okay.
Okay. So here's what I want you to do. Look at 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 is in the back. Okay? And think about what grade you would give them. While you're doing that, I'm going to call more people to talk to them about their evidence. Now,